Welcome to another episode of Paranormal Than Normal. I am your host, as always, Jeremy, trying to pick up all the weed that just fell out of my pipe onto the floor. And I am here once again to try to make the world seem a little more normal. But as always, that's a hard stretch. And today, I don't think we're going to do that, honestly, but we'll try. I am joined, as always, by a guest. And my guest this show is Shawn Wickens, who is the host of the Stoner Morning Show. Did I get that right?
Yes.
And he is also an author who wrote a book that we will get into in a little bit. But first things first, how you doing tonight, Shawn?
I feel good. No complaints that I care to share.
Well, glad to hear it.
Yeah.
So, my first question to every guest in this show always is, what got you into the paranormal / spiritual world?
I think it was an overexposure to science fiction when I was a kid, and I'll also credit those. Do you remember, I think it was in the 90s, there was all these commercials for Time Life books that were the paranormal stuff, and it was you could get the Loch Ness Monster, you can get a book about crop circles, you could get a book about astral projection. I think I've always just been a healthy skeptic in that I'm interested in these things. I'm aware that they could be real. I don't necessarily know what I believe, but I'm open to possibilities.
Well, I like someone who is willing to open their mind and try to imagine these things are real.
Yeah. Did you get all of your weed?
Got all my weed, but in the process lost my lighter, because that's how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Bummer, but oh well. I shall survive unless it magically appears. Oh, it's rammed to my legs. I should have known. So the second question always is,
yes,
have you had any experiences with anything in the paranormal realm, whether it be ghost spirits, UFOs, or any of the furry cryptids?
I've seen things in the sky that occasionally could be unexplained aerial phenomena. I don't know. I've never seen a ghost. I've definitely been scared. But I think honestly my paranormal strength is that I think I'm a pretty good magnet for just pretty good coincidences. I wouldn't call myself a psychic, but I've had enough friends tell me that I'm somewhat of an accidental mystic that I'm I might as well just start believing that. You know what I mean? My last name is Wickens, not spelled like Wiccan, but it's close enough. And somewhat ironically or coincidentally, the neighborhood that my sister and I grew up in, there is a witchcraft museum in that small neighborhood of Cleveland, Ohio, that my sister still lives in the neighborhood we grew up in. I mean, so that's kind of an interesting thing. We're both interested in that realm. But I think I just sort of invite enough interesting coincidences. I've had random psychic mediums come up to me and give me readings. Some of them have been very, enlightening. So, and I think I'll share one last interesting anecdote, which relates to the book that I wrote. That will be well, I proofread it too, but I'm also a comedian, and I've written jokes over the years that have somehow ended up coming true. And I'll share with you one example. I used to tell a joke that I don't meditate, but I do visualize myself telling people how much meditation has changed my life, which is kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But now I do meditate, and I do sometimes share that meditation has improved my life and existence. So Um,
I'll tell you. I've been told so many times that I need to start meditating to start unlocking things in my brain can do that I don't know they can do,
right.
and I, I find it so hard to slow down and find the time. Like it's just the biggest thing.
Oh, I
And
get it.
most people think like, oh, you're a stoner. You think you'd be sitting around all the time just doing nothing. I'm like, that's not the case. If I'm smoking, I'm doing something while I do it. But
Well, we can talk about meditation a little bit because I do think I have some small pieces of advice that do help people. Some of it's personal, but some of it is also, I think, applicable to other people. Um, I, in some ways, I planted the seed to be um, a frequent meditator years ago. I used to be a residential window cleaner here in New York City,
all
uh,
right,
which I wasn't always out. It's kind of an interesting job because I wasn't always out on scaffolding on the outside of buildings. Sometimes we were, but it was really more so we were in people's apartments, the windows tilted in.
mm-hmm.
It was a different danger because I mean you could knock over somebody's priceless statue. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, but it was just mindless, repetitive work, and I think when I made the choice to start meditating, I think I was able to do it because that job provided hours and hours of accidental practice.
makes sense. I mean, it in a way that definitely makes sense. So
Yeah. And I think the strength of it really is that, I mean, just recently I realized even when I try to meditate for 5 minutes and I can't do it very well, a lot of times, I guess I cheat. I listen to guided meditation stuff on YouTube. That makes it just easier for me. But if I do a 5 or 10 minute meditation and I feel like my mind was wandering and I wasn't really relaxed and in the moment, I at least tried, and I never have an experience that's so negative that I have quit. I've still stuck with it. So, in some ways, the difficult moments of trying to meditate makes you stronger for doing it when it works. Um,
yeah, I get that. It makes
you know,
sense. I mean, I just got maybe I should try the YouTube thing with the guided meditations. I even have a few websites that past guests on the show have given me like their site and told me like there's a few free ones on there if you want to check them out, like and
yeah.
try using them. But
Do you have trouble sleeping routinely?
no, I sleep like a freaking rock every night. I mean, I'm usually stoned, but or drinking, but yeah.
I'm a pretty good. I'd call myself an A+ sleeper as well, but I do often listen to stuff at night to help me sleep, and I think it helps me in those moments when I'm awake and I'm listening to guided meditation stuff. So try listening to stuff at night. Maybe it might sort of click with your subconscious to make you um, more ready to do it when you're awake.
Yeah, all right. I should, maybe I will. Maybe I shall.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I'll have to find a way to do it because my wife would kill me if I had that stuff playing while she's trying to sleep. But I mean, trust me, you don't disturb her sleep or you get the claw. But
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll also share that I have no I guess metaphysical diplomas or you know what I mean, like
yeah,
uh, credentials. I don't know. I'm just yeah, I'm a hippie stoner too.
I mean, there really there are diplomas in the metaphysical, but I mean, you like a lot of diplomas, having one doesn't make you an expert. It's usually doing something. It's doing something that makes you an expert or
That's
practicing something. So,
that's
so I mean, it's not like you need a degree for that.
no.
Yeah, most people I know just started doing it themselves and they became masters at it over time. But you mentioned it, so let's talk about your book that's coming out.
Sure. Well, it's already here,
Oh, okay, I did.
which is very
Wasn't about
appropriate because it's called Time Machine Blueprints. Um,
that.
and I swear this is a magical book. It has changed my life since putting this out. Months ago, I got stoned, and this already, I had already for some reason started thinking about time travel. I don't know why. Um, just to entertain myself during lockdown, I suppose. But one evening I got stoned, and then I woke up the next morning and I had bought in the domain name Time Machine Blueprints, which I was amazed was available and I was also like, somebody should have that. Why not? Somebody should own it. And for months or weeks, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And then I realized after getting stoned some other night, I could self-publish a copy of Time Machine Blueprints on Amazon, and the first edition is blank. It's a and it says right on the cover, first edition. So I tell people, get yourself a copy, check it periodically. Maybe at some point the Time Machine Blueprints will magically be in there. But also, I have friends who use this as a dream journal. I know it's funny that when people say this is a genius idea, because I literally just published a blank book. Actually, there are some time machine, time travel brainstorms at the very end of it that I included. But I don't know. I feel like it makes me more positive or optimistic about the future, because it's like, this is stupid, but it's real. Like, who knows? Maybe the 34th edition that comes out like 100 years after I'm dead, maybe that'll be the legit one.
Truth.
And, my name might not be on the cover anymore, but maybe I'll get a thank you at the back of it.
Thank you to the man who printed the blank book and gave me the inspiration to fill it in.
And Jeremy, I swear, like, I don't know, it keeps on getting funnier to me, because I'll go on stage and I'll talk about this, and it always gets a laugh. Recently, I realized that I self-published by accident a prequel to H.G. Wells' Time Machine, because before that character had to build the time machine, he had to sketch out time machine blueprints, and so this is the prequel to that book.
I didn't even think of that, but that's actually genius as well. I mean, and I love the Time Machine, classic movie.
Oh,
classic
yeah.
book.
And I did just read it for the first time. My father showed me the film, the 1960s film, when I was a kid, and I just rewatched that. Do you remember the film? Have you seen it?
I had to watch it my senior year of high school in sci-fi class. So.
Oh, God. Wow, sci-fi class in high school. Wow. What school did you?
Well, as we're discussing pre-recording, I went to Kingston High School, so in Kingston, New York. That was one of the for your senior year, you got to take instead of just regular English, you got to take like a specialized English class.
Wow.
And science fiction was one of the choices, or like there was Greek like mythology too, and other. I think like one about like I forget what you call them, but like rom-coms, romantic books, like.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and there was like a Shakespeare class, of course. So I mean, you got to choose which way you wanted to go. And
Yeah.
I took 2 semesters of science fiction, hard and soft science fiction. So.
Wow, they even made the distinction in the class. That's great.
Oh, the teacher was very much into science fiction, and he loved it. So, kind of like an older nerd, Mr. Stein. I don't know if you're still with us, but one of the best damn English teachers ever.
Mr. Stein, hopefully you're still at Kingston High. And one of my recent joys in life, Jeremy, is that I will send copies of this to random places like nuclear power plants or just like the library at MIT. I have a dream of someday sneaking a copy of this into a little metal box and then burying it on a beach somewhere where, retirees will frequently go out there with the metal detectors, just so one guy can find this and open up a box that finds the time machine blueprints and then opens it up and gets disappointed that it's empty. Anyway, maybe I'll send a copy to your old high school.
I'm sure they would love it. And I mean, actually, the guy on the beach is going to be like, what did I find? Like, it's blank. Like, do they reveal themselves over time? Like,
I will hand this copy to people sometimes, and they'll get freaked out or get confused by it. But if I explain it to them that, hey, it's blank inside because it's the first edition, usually people get it and laugh. I mean, I even have my own copy, and I'll reveal to the world I'm working on the second edition inside of my own copy of the first edition of the time machine blueprints. Because why the fuck not?
Exactly. I mean, and it's like that famous episode of Futurama where they found a van from the 70s underground, and Hermes is like, "Where's the device that slows and speeds up the passage of time?" And Fry's like, "Underneath the back seat." Pulls out a bong.
I really like the episode where they have a time machine that only goes into the future.
Oh, that's an amazing classic sci-fi trope.
I think that. Oh, anyway, what I wanted to say about the film, The Time Machine. This isn't in the book. At the end of the film, the inventor of the time machine goes back to his present day, like 1899 London, and then he goes back to the future, and the narrator of the book or whatever, one of his buddies finds out that he took 3 books out of his own library to take to the future, and the movie ends with like, what books do you think he took?
Yeah.
One of the books he took was the Time Machine Blueprints. You would need a copy of that if you're going to take the time machine into the future.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been smart to have the first time, but yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if we find a very early draft of H.G. Wells's The Time Machine, and there was a character in there named Shawn Wickens? It is a British name.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible.
Why not?
I mean, in this world, and on the show, we believe anything is possible. So
yeah.
Which, and actually, fun little fact about that episode you brought up, though.
Oh yes.
On Disenchanted, in the one episode they're watching security footage in the castle, or like magic security footage, kind of. But in the footage, you could see Fry, the professor, and Bender in that machine, like when they hit that timeline, which just proves that Matt Groening plans it to be like prehistoric Simpsons Futurama, basically.
Yeah. That's the magic of cartoons. I mean, cartoons are great. Have you ever answered your own question of how you got interested in the paranormal?
I have before, and I have on other shows as well. And
got it. I haven't heard that episode.
Yeah, my listeners know, but basically, kind of the same as you. I mean, in my elementary school, there was literally one paranormal book in the library, because I used to work there in like 4th, 5th grade, like on lunch, helping put books away because I was a goody two shoes nerd. But I mean, and I love books, so I like getting to see all the books I put away was like awesome. I would actually sit there and like read like half a book while putting them away. But there was one book that was about I don't even know what it was called. It wasn't called Paranormal or anything, or Crypt. I don't even think cryptid was in the title, but it was Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, all the aliens, like all the classic paranormal stuff that people talked about in the 90s.
Yes.
And at the very end, there was a little section on living dinosaur possibility, and all that piqued my interest. And growing up, I watched Mysteries and Monsters in America and Monster Quest and all those shows as well. I mean, I hate all the freaking ghost hunting shows because most of them are so fake. But I mean, I watched all those shows growing up too, and just I always had an interest in it. And then a podcast called Monsters Among Us that I found in 2016 or 17, whenever I found it. It was like in the 3rd season when I found it, but it made me fall in love with paranormal again, because it's just regular people like me calling in their paranormal experiences to this podcast, and the host just playing the call and then giving like what he thinks about it. And it's got a huge following now. He was actually on my show back during the summer, and it was an honor to have him on. But Derek Hayes is a podcast OG, but he got into it before the pandemic, like a lot of people, including myself. But
I think that my interest and fascination with Bigfoot is probably all because of like Chewbacca. I was a Star Wars fan when I was a kid. I mean, in some ways, like when people tell me or share that their belief that Han Solo is the coolest character in the original trilogy, I really feel that Han Solo is as cool as he is because he has Chewbacca with him. I mean, Chewbacca just makes Han Solo cooler. If he was by himself, or if he was just with another guy,
he'd be a punk. He would just be a punk.
Yeah.
But no, he is a cool, awesome space dog. That's
right. Who vouches for And it's like,
Yeah.
Chewbacca's around there, he's strong as fuck, but he's also cuddly. He's giving out hugs. You
One
know
of
what
the
I
only
mean?
one of the only creatures to be in like seven out of like 11 movies.
Right.
Like it was, but and I mean Chewbacca, what a Wookiee. But I
Exactly.
and I mean, well, okay. My personal opinion, the coolest character of the original trilogy will always be Darth Vader because Darth Vader is metal as shit.
Oh, sure.
But I mean Chewbacca is a damn close second because he is awesome and just the comedy that can go back and forth between between Harrison Ford, I almost said Harrison Solo, between
Yeah.
Harrison Ford and I want to say Kenny Rogers, but I could be wrong. I forget what did Chewbacca, but
Yeah.
I know
I hope
Kenny Rogers is C-3PO, wasn't he?
Yeah. I hope they make a Solo too. Why not? Who cares? I'll watch.
I would be down for it simply because I want to see an expansion on spoilers, but it came out like 6, 7, 8 years ago, so whatever. But
Right.
I want to see a continuation about Darth Maul mainly.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because any real Star Wars fans know that Darth Maul is the coolest one of the top 3 coolest characters in all of Star Wars.
He's pretty bad.
Because he is in every iteration of Star Wars besides the original and sequel.
Yeah.
In all the TV iterations, he's in it at some point because his storyline never ends from Phantom Menace on to freaking till he actually gets killed by Obi-Wan in the desert right before New Hope. But
Oh yeah.
and I mean the fact that Obi-Wan kills him again is just poetry.
Yeah. I'm a fan. I'm not a hater. And if that makes you angry, you can I don't know, send me a message on social media about it. I guess all right. The last thing I'll say about Time Machine Blueprints is that in some ways this did come about because even before I bought the domain name, even before I came up with the idea of putting out a book, I was thinking about time travel. And you know how you're well versed in science fiction. You know how people have said in the past, well, we don't have time travelers in the present because we need to build some sort of bridge that they go to or they can arrive to, whatever. We haven't built that yet. And I was hanging out at home, stoned again, and I was thinking about that theory, and I thought to myself, what if the device isn't like a Stargate? What if it's just we have to build a civilization where everybody feels safe and welcome? You know what I mean? Because it's like there's a lot of points in the past in history that you kind of wouldn't want to go to because you'd be seen as like scary or like, people were just less tolerant in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't want to. I mean, and you wouldn't want to show up along like when human beings were like the Eloys and just did nothing and would try to kill you immediately. But
Yeah, and I mean, if we had somebody from the year 3000 just pop into reality here in 2023, I think most of us would probably freak out or not believe them or, you know. So in some ways, I think we need to like band together and just sort of like make a better present. And like, if we do that, which is possible if we just open our minds up to the possibility that like, yeah, we can make a pretty cool Earth, where everybody feels taken care of and, embraced and loved and safe. Like maybe once we create that civilization, shitloads of people from the future will like show up and was like, hey, this is finally, this is a cool place to visit. So that was kind of like the seed that sparked my current time lord journey, time lord in training.
yeah, I mean, but have you heard actually of those people that like they're humanoid figures that are seen flying over like California in jetpacks, and they've been seen flying over the desert too in the Southwest?
No,
Like
that
they wear all silver suits and they have a jetpack attached to them, and they're seeing a lot actually over the last like 10-ish years just like someone look up like by airports a lot of times as well, and it's been hypothesized by a lot of people that maybe those are time travelers coming in, and that they come in, and I think they just can only stay for like a little while. Like I think it's that they just discovered how to do it, and they have to just go in and stay as long as they're able to, and just check things out, and then go back and report.
I mean, if I was from the future and I was wanting to check out 2023, I probably just wouldn't pop in and walk around. It's like being in the air, like droning above everything, is probably the safer way to do it. So, I mean, maybe there could be time travelers walking around now all the time. They're just wearing like sort of like, cloaking devices so they can't be seen. Who knows?
It's very possible. I mean, there's the whole Glimmerman like slash predator type spirit or cryptid that people have reported all the time, like in the woods. They've reported seeing it like in their house, and it basically looks like the Invisible Man. Like in the newer movies, they could basically this looks like someone's wearing an invisibility cloak.
Right.
And it's weird because I mean, a lot of people think it's extraterrestrials and that the government's now training with it because they got it from extraterrestrials. But because funny story, I actually heard this on the podcast too. The guy who wrote Predator, his father was in the military, and they think his father knew things, and he told his son. So, I mean, and that's what he wrote the movies on, is that idea that there's these creatures that exist that could do that.
Right.
But I mean, it's a theory, but I mean, it's kind of, there are actual like facts right there that point to the fact that could have happened. Like it really could have even, but it's creepy. I mean, I wouldn't want to see something. If I see all of a sudden like a little piece of that freaking air in front of me start shimmering, I'm gonna literally freak out probably.
Yeah.
Like I would move. That's Matrix theory stuff right there. That makes me shiver almost. But
I don't want to share too many things that'll make me sound insane, but I don't know. I'm a stoner comedian. I don't know. I like to think about the future. I like to fill my mind with good thoughts. I sometimes, because why not? We're here to have fun. You know what I mean? Like, I sometimes prepare myself for the possibility that somebody might just warp into existence in front of me, say something weird or, you know what I mean, or freaky, and then just like pop back out of reality. Because maybe we should encourage ourselves to be ready for something crazy like that happening, because the more people who are ready for it, maybe it'll happen.
Yeah, imagine all of a sudden someone just pops into being in front of you, and they literally just go up to you and whisper in your ear, "Moist," and then they pop back out again. That would be the funniest thing. That'd be the funniest thing ever if they did that, like as an ongoing sketch on some show.
Why shouldn't there be a time travel hidden camera prank show? I had a great thought and I lost it. Maybe I'll get it again.
Well, as a stoner, I understand that 100%.
Yeah.
But we were talking about Bigfoot a minute ago, and
oh yes,
I'm kind of curious on if you have any ideas on what Bigfoot could possibly, like, what do you think Bigfoot is? Because it's pretty well known that they basically exist, but it's more a good debate now of what is it that's existing.
In some ways, I am so pro the idea of Bigfoot. I kind of want him to be real, but I also, or them, I want big feet to exist. But I feel maybe we shouldn't be looking for them, because if they don't want to be hidden, maybe we should respect their wishes and just not look for them. So, but I do kind of want to know if they're real or not. So I came up with a documentary idea where I take a bunch of friends in the woods and I tell them that we're not going to look for Bigfoot, and we just hang out. And then if it seems like we're talking about Bigfoot too much, or we're just wondering about him, I sort of like cancel the trip. And I'm like, we're going back into the city. We can't look for Bigfoot. We have to be out here not looking for Bigfoot, because maybe then that's when Bigfoot will find us. So I do have this joke where the way to probably find Bigfoot is to just walk around in the woods with a bunch of like surveying equipment and like tape measurers, and just walk around talking about how, hey, this seems like a pretty good place to put a town, you know? And at some point, maybe Bigfoot will just pop out of the bushes like, what did you say? You have too many towns. You don't need a town here, you know?
Yeah.
So I think we shouldn't be looking for Bigfoot, and maybe that's when Bigfoot will find us.
See, I mean, there are so many though. Just like there's so many pics and videos nowadays of what is supposed to be a Bigfoot, and a lot of them though can't be faked. Like I've seen a lot of them proving that they are not fake. They proved it like through every measure of photography science we have that they can't find a way that this was faked in any way or form. It's a real picture.
Right.
Which, I mean, I 100% believe in Bigfoot. My listeners know that, but it's just a matter of, I mean, and I definitely don't think we should be hunting them. I'm 100% against that because that's stupid as hell.
No.
But should we be looking for them? Yes. Certain people who are cryptozoologists by trade, and they actually studied it and learned how to do it and spent a lot of time in the field trying to find things. They should be the ones looking for it because at least they have the right goal of it. They're not trying to exploit it or capture it. They're just trying to prove it exists.
Right. I know this. I shouldn't say no for sure, but I have a pretty good feeling if we ever meet aliens, we can probably ask them if Bigfoot is real, and they'll be like, yeah. Like maybe that's the first thing we could ask them if, you know, hey, can you fix global warming, and also can you introduce us to Bigfoot? Why not?
See, well, one, they're going to say right away, like, global warming, that's been going on Earth since the beginning of time. It just goes through cycles.
Sure.
So they're going to say, we can't do shit about that. That's your problem.
I think they can fix it. I don't know. I think they can. I give aliens a lot of credit. Why not?
I do too, for a lot of reasons, but
I watched some space documentary recently. I think it was like on some BBC thing that was available on Netflix. But they were talking about how the universe is expanding, and galaxies, and the universe is expanding and it's accelerating, and eventually the galaxies are going to be farther apart, and they're going to be traveling so quickly away from each other, it will probably be impossible to reach other places. And in some ways, I felt like that's a self-limiting belief on a species level. Because it's possible, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 years in the future, maybe we will master interstellar travel, and maybe the fact that it's going to be harder to reach these places and we will be able to do it, it's just going to be then more of a triumph. So God bless weed. I really feel like, and meditation, because I don't know.
Amen.
Like, I kind of feel like I do think a little bit, I don't know if I should say more efficiently, but I feel like I'm less, I succumb less to like thoughts of like shame and self-loathing, and I think it helps me to think more optimistically about the future. You know what I mean? Does time travel sound cool? Yes. Would I like to experience it? Sure. If I don't get to, will I feel like my life is a waste? No. I got to put my name on a book that, hey, maybe future generations will find this and be like, I think I can work on this. I think I can tackle this problem. So I think I think we shouldn't bog ourselves down with like thoughts of how shitty the world is. I mean, yes, there's shit in the world, but I think we're also capable of doing some pretty incredible things. So that's kind of why I put this out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree as far as all that. Pretty much everything you said, I agree with. But as far as Bigfoot goes,
Yes. All right.
and,
Let's get to that.
no, no, it's all good. Global warming is a good topic to get on always. But as far as Bigfoot goes, I mean, I have a theory. In the last podcaster I told this theory, like she literally had her mind blown for like 2 weeks after it, like trying to, like she kept adding more things to it and finding more like lines that connect in it. But I have a theory that
Yeah.
Earth is a alien prison planet that was built by aliens.
Yes.
And then basically it's built by aliens, and at that point they start putting all their they have like a UN or a dupe, if you want to go back, keep going Futurama references, but or Galactic Council, whatever you want to call it, and it's just basically all the different species, and any species that they deem is too dangerous, they put on Earth. Hence Bigfoot, hence sea/lake monsters.
Yeah.
Hence, I mean, sharks.
Alligators, polar bears. You don't want to fuck with a polar bear.
I see certain things like polar bears. I can't add to that because it's just they can prove where that came from in evolutionary stances. But I mean, like Bigfoot's like the Bigfoot and Dogman are like kind of the centerpiece of it all, because that will explain where both these species that have tons of encounters reported for both of them. Like even if half of them are fake, it's still a lot of encounters.
Right.
And it just would explain all that. It would explain a lot. I mean, I'm not gonna go fully into it again because my listeners have heard it, but basically, but it also explains why there's UFOs, because those are wardens that watch over Earth.
Sure. Or tourists to check out the zoo exhibits.
Exactly that. Exactly. I mean, exactly. That's the point as well. But I mean, it's just and like the last podcast I told this from Be Afraid of the Dark podcast. She literally like 2 weeks later I was on another show with her, and she's just like, I'm still adding things to your theory that makes sense. And I was like, see, I knew I was onto something. But I mean, it just wouldn't make sense, honestly.
Yeah.
Or the other way that theory can go too, really just quickly, is instead of them building Earth, they found Earth and they killed off the dinosaurs so that they could put prisoners here.
Well, it's nice that they got rid of the dinosaurs, because we'd be fucked even harder if they were around. So.
Oh, they missed a few if you talk to people in the paranormal world.
Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, yeah, it's very true. I mean,
yeah,
it could be true.
We don't have to worry about walking down the street and getting mauled by raptors, which is, I mean, knock on wood. That's pretty. So they did something all right.
If you lived in the jungles of Chile, you would not be saying that probably. But
maybe not. Maybe I'll visit someday, but I don't know if it seems too scary. I might not want to go there. But I'm not the guy who wants to discover dinosaurs on Earth. I mean, if somebody has discovered dinosaurs on Earth, they probably have been eaten. So I think time travel is a little safer. I will share that I have friends who have said, hey man, you can't be fucking with the timeline. You might be inviting some pretty bad like paradoxes or something like that. And I don't know if I think it's also a self-limiting belief that if we fuck with the timeline, we're going to break it, because I'm not a physicist, but we can manipulate gravity, but we can't break the equation of what gravity is, like 9.8 meters a second squared or something like that. We can manipulate light, but we can't alter the speed of light. You know what I mean? And so I don't think, if we can't break the rules of physics, I don't know if we can break time either. So I think it's a perfectly fine thing to experiment with. But I could be wrong. I may have doomed us all. So
I mean,
Apologies in advance.
I, I mean, I'm not sure. The butterfly effect could be a really true thing, and I mean, it really could. It depends if time is singular or if it's cyclical,
Sure,
or I mean, there's a
but
lot of
that
different. What we don't know how time is. That's the
it's
problem.
true. But the butterfly effect theory didn't come from time travelers. It came from people who can't time travel. Um,
True, but I mean, it kind of makes sense.
I'm very well aware that any advancement in civilization, it does lead to disaster. Mary Curie died of radiation poisoning. Early early pilots died. Astronauts have died. Um, you know, I don't know. Maybe AI will figure it out.
Probably,
Yeah.
probably, and that's when we're doomed. But so let me ask you this though: what's your theory on aliens?
Um,
Like,
gee.
do you believe in do you believe in all the typical species we believe exist?
Um, I think it's a pretty safe assumption to be like, hey, us humans, we study animals in the wild. We can't really, we're trying to understand them. We can't really communicate with them that efficiently. I think if there's some advanced civilization out there, I think they're probably checking us out. And I think that they're like, these humans are idiots. They can't understand our, telepathic language, or they have a very weak grasp of their own emotions. We can't hang with these fools. Um, you know, I think I'm not that much of a Star Trek fan, but what's that Star Trek uh, Next Generation movie where I think Geordi and somebody else goes back in time and they find the guy who discovered the warp drive, and then
Yeah,
the Vulcans see that warp drive signature. I think that's kind of a good um, template of like we need to figure out our own shit, and once we can prove to some higher life form that we've gotten our act together, they might be like, oh cool. Hey, we'll chill with you. Want to try some space weed? Like this shit
yes,
will really
yes.
blow your fucking mind. um,
I mean, I see. I agree. I agree with that as well. It's just I totally forgot where I was about to go with that. Holy, oh well. I mean, it's like the storyline they did in Marvel Comics, kind of where
uh,
that all that uh, basically order of different species all made a deal. We will not go after Earth. We will avoid Earth because it's a
yeah,
backwater planet and they're not ready for it yet.
right.
I mean, of course, anybody who knows comic books knows that's not the case anyway. That all the bad aliens are still going to try to go attack Earth,
I
but yeah.
think
So I'm
I look at my own sort of journey through life, and I do think that I'm getting a little bit wiser, and um, I don't know. Should I? Am I getting smarter? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like a lunatic. Um, but I think I'm getting more sort of optimistic. And as somebody who used to dwell in a lot of just like shitty thoughts, um, it's I enjoy myself more in my mid 40s than I did in my late 30s. Um, and I think part of it is just trying to think about um, good versions of the future, not even just of me, but sort of just on a global level. And I don't know. I think it helps. It definitely helps me. I need to be optimistic, um, uh, because I spent a lot of years. I'd say that I even wasted a lot of years not thinking that way, um, which I don't know. It's it's also I know that to be around optimistic people, somebody who's optimistic all the time, it's kind of a drag, but um,
Yeah, it can be.
it's useful for me to feel that way. Also, I think I'm pretty good at getting stoned. Um, so much so that sometimes, I'll be honest, sometimes when I'm not getting stoned, this might also come from meditation. Sometimes I'll just randomly kind of feel stoned, or sort of in sort of like a hypnotic state. Who knows why? But uh,
I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
That actually happens to me once in a while too. And like
yeah,
I've talked about on the podcast before, whenever I'm talking to mediums, psychics, clairvoyants, like or anybody in that area of field, like
yeah,
I get the weird like even if I'm not smoking this green ganja, I
yeah,
still like will get like a hypnotic thing going in my head the whole time I'm talking to them. Like and a couple of them are like, oh, that's your what you can do trying to break through. Like
yeah.
you're hitting it, but you can't break through the glass yet.
I'll
So
I'll admit to trying to. I didn't really think that I would find myself doing this, but after I started meditating and I was reading a lot about not just meditation, but neuroplasticity and changing mindsets and um, lost knowledge. I started reading a little bit about astral projection, and I like sometimes I don't know. I've tried to do it, and I think I've gotten close. Um, I also know this about myself. The few times that I've done hallucinogens in my life, I don't want to. I don't want to share how about the frequency. I don't do it that much, but I don't see a lot of visuals when I do that kind of stuff. So I think astral projection for me isn't a visual thing. I think it's kind of a sensation thing. So I think, um, and yes, I usually get stoned before I go to bed, and I listen to some pretty chill music, and um, I don't know, it like feels pretty good. I look forward to going to bed sometimes. But
sometimes that.
yeah, but I've gotten to points where like I'm I don't know, I feel like I'm in the zone and it like feels pretty great. And I'm like, well, this isn't maybe astral projection, but it's sort of like an other body experience, not an out of body experience, but um, an enhanced physical experience. So I feel like I have astral projected in the way that I am capable of doing at this point in my life. Um,
Yeah, I had an author on here a month or two ago named Vincent Field, and he wrote a book about astral projection and lucid dreaming.
yeah,
So I mean, it's a trippy thing, like the whole world of astral projection and lucid dreaming. Like both of them are crazy. I mean, lucid dreaming itself is just insane. Like what you can do and what you
yeah,
see. It's just like I don't know if I'd want to do it even. Like
yeah. I'm not good at lucid dreaming myself, but again, I am in the last 2 years, I am trying to think of things in different ways. In some ways, I think I might lucid dream when I daydream. I'm a pretty active, just daydreamer. Sometimes to the point where it's like, Shawn, like you got to stop daydreaming so hard. You know what I mean? But I think I might, in some ways, um, lucid exist. Uh, 'Cause sometimes I'll just be riding the train, or I'll just be like sitting at a having my morning coffee, and I don't know, my mind just goes to like weird imaginative places. Um, so there were a lot of times where I was sort of mad at myself that I was like, I can't lucid dream, I can't astral project. Maybe I just do it in a different way.
yeah, it's possible. It's very possible. I mean, there's so many. It's such an unknown field that no
Right.
one can say for sure. There's only one way to do it or not.
Sure.
But
And there's even a part of me that like when I was reading about this stuff, I was like, do all these people really astral project? Are they just fucking with me? Um, but I I don't know. I've talked to enough people who have had different experiences from me, not even paranormal ones, just sort of like different life experiences that I'm just sort of, I don't know, it opens my mind to sort of the um the obstacles that other people have overcome, and the different ways that other people have grown. It's sort of like, why shouldn't I why should I doubt when somebody says that they astral project, or they are a psychic medium, or they really hear, um, what's up, Greg Kos, or Kos? Uh,
What's going on, Greg?
Greg Kos guy. I mean, who am I to doubt people's statements about how they go through and experience life? You know what I mean? Like, I've seen like those kinds of things where psychic mediums are debunked, you know what I mean? But I've also had
Yeah,
experiences where I've talked to people, and you know, they have said some things that are shockingly like relevant to me. I've also spoken to a psychic medium who shared some information. It didn't make sense to me. I called up my sister. I was like, "Hey, listen to what I just heard," and it completely made sense to her. So, um,
yeah. I mean, yeah. And I actually had a guest on as well who she wrote a book about how to tell the difference between a fake and a real psychic slash medium,
right.
and like, I think it's called the Yellow Brick Road to Psychics. But
That's a good title.
I mean, it's there are fake ones out there, but there also are a lot of real ones, and I honestly don't think any of them I ever had in my show are fake. I think they're all very real, and they can do it because I mean, a bunch of them told me something at the end of the show off air, or even on the show. A couple of them told me something, and it's just like, ow, do you know that? Ow,
Yeah, yeah.
like it's kind of wow, but it blows my mind. But why don't you tell us about your podcast in the last few minutes we got here?
Oh, sure. So a while back I started a podcast with some friends called Stoner Morning Show. It's, just stoners hanging out and talking about stuff, and it's kind of a little bit been on hiatus, but I still do some uh live shows in the city here. I helped put together I mean, the fact that weed is now legal in New York State, it's pretty great.
Oh,
Um
that's true. Yeah, I
yeah.
forgot
I
about that.
mean, uh there's some growing pains. There's definitely some legacy um, cannabis professionals who feel that they're a little bit boxed out of the game at the moment. But we got to be optimistic that we'll push forward. And anyway, I I do a lot of over the summer. Myself and some friends put together a Finger Lakes Cannabis and Music Festival. I do a lot of 420 friendly shows here in the city. We're doing one this Saturday, January 21st. You can find information about that at Stoner Morning Show on Instagram. We do it once a month, and we're hoping we might actually do something up in Kingston, New York pretty soon. Um, but it really is all about chilling in a different way. And, you know, I'll be honest, when I get stoned in my living room and watch TV or movies, like, I usually don't not enjoy things. Like, even if I'm watching some show that a bunch of people are like, "Oh, that show sucked," I'm like, I don't know. Like, people hated the Thor movie that came out over the summer.
Love and Thunder.
Yeah,
I
I,
love that movie.
I loved it. I thought it was great. I also saw it stoned, and like, I mean, it's just easy to enjoy things when you're zonked. So Stoner Morning Show, we've done a lot of live streaming stuff. We'll probably do some more of that pretty soon, but it really is right now we're doing a lot of live events, and it's really about trying to be more optimistic in a room with a bunch of other people who are trying to be more optimistic and laughing and enjoying the night. And it's been, you know, I've had so many revelations in the past 2 years, Jeremy, one of which is that for years I was a struggling comedian. Now I like to think of myself as more of an emerging comedian. And I really don't think that I live to do comedy. I think I do comedy because it helps me live in a different way. And it's easy to get, it's easy to sort of beat yourself up about artistic endeavors not being at the level that you want. But honestly, I feel like lately, in me trying to create stuff, even in just putting out this book in the last few months, my efforts with the Time Machine Blueprints, my efforts with like doing comedy shows, it enriches my life, and I'm enjoying my life when I'm not on stage to a level that I think it makes the times that I am on stage that much better. I'm not running for president, but I do want people to buy this book because I think it's helpful to have something like this that you can write down a lot of crazy, wild dreams in.
Well, I will say it's a genius idea. I mean, just the idea of it, and I like the idea that it could be used for anything, really. It could be used, like you said, for a journal
Yeah.
/ diary.
I think the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft in Cleveland, Ohio, I heard a rumor they're using it as a guest registry for people that they've give tours to.
Interesting.
And if they're not doing that, I also know of somebody else who has it in their Airbnb, and they have it there for guests to sign. So I've been lucky enough to like travel a lot recently. I went to a friend's wedding in Honduras. I dropped off some copies in Honduras. So there's more and more copies of Time Machine Blueprints getting spread out into the world,
Interesting.
Yeah. I send copies to random people because why not? I should send one to the White House.
Just don't put a return address.
Yeah, maybe not.
Just don't put a return address on it.
Yeah, definitely not.
Well, actually, you send it to Biden, he might literally run to the next room and be like, "My God, I found it!" But and then they'll open up and see it's blank, and they'll be like, "Oh, Sleepy Joe."
Yeah.
But yeah, and if you end up in Kingston, New York, please let me know. I'll freaking take a trip home to just see it live, or maybe even join you for part of it. Who knows?
Perfect. We'll do.
It's only a 3-hour drive.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I definitely want to thank you for coming on today, Shawn. It's been a pleasure having you. A lot of fun, interesting conversation we've had, and I can't wait for it to come out. And so where can the people find you and your podcast just to find out everything about you?
Yeah, people can Google. You can go to timemachineblueprints.com, but I also encourage people to just Google Time Machine Blueprints, or even just search Amazon for Time Machine Blueprints, because let's get that algorithm interested in the fact that people are hungry for it. But you can also go to Stoner Morning Show on Instagram or stonermorningshow.com. And I don't know. Find me however you want. Just don't do anything weird. Don't pop out of the bushes and tell me you're from the future and not be able to back it up. I don't want.
Unless you are a supermodel or something from the future and you need me to save the future kind and populate it, then please come see me, please. I beg you.
If it's legit, yeah. But I don't want any fake time travelers messing with my brain. It is fragile.
That is true. That is very true.
Yeah.
Well, once again, folks, go check it out. Go check out Time Machine Blueprint. Go check out his podcast. Check out everything. This man's funny, and you'll enjoy it. I'm definitely going to be checking some of it out. And all my listeners know you can find me on Facebook as Paranormal the New Normal / Maniacal Music Musings podcast with an S group. You can find me on Twitter and the Gram as at Juggalo Bastard. You can find me on TikTok at Juggalo Bastard Podcast. And you can find me on YouTube just by searching Paranormal the New Normal. I want to thank Shawn for coming on once again. It's been a freaking honor to have you on. And
thank you, Jeremy.
And maybe we'll have to have a part 2 someday and continue the conversation. But
yeah, there's going to be a second edition, so it'll be out there at some point.
Well, definitely hit me up when that comes out, and we'll have you on to talk about what you added, actually.
We'll do.
Thank you, listeners. Have a good night.